Let me tell you a story. A story where beginnings end, and the end marks a new beginning. Pray, return to the Waking Sands, adventurer. That's a little snippet of the future trauma that you're going to deal with. But, welcome to the What Is series, where as always, we talk about a variety of games both launched and unlaunched. And today's topic of choice is Final Fantasy XIV. Now without further ado, let's dive into it. Let the B-roll roll. So, what is Final Fantasy XIV? Well, it's an MMORPG that was released in 2010 for Microsoft Windows, developed and published by Square Enix. It was the original version of the 14th entry in the main Final Fantasy series, and it's the second MMORPG in the series after Final Fantasy XI. So, what really is Final Fantasy XIV? Well, it is basically a Final Fantasy theme park. Think about Disneyland, but in a sense for all your favorite Final Fantasy games. The game itself is a sub-based MMO, so it means you have to pay per month to play it, but the sub itself is relatively cheap if you're comparing it to things like Netflix, Crunchyroll, or even Disney Plus. However, you are in luck if you're interested in playing the game and not paying a sub, because there is a trial version that lets you play up to level 60 for free with no time restrictions. There are some limitations, but you still get to enjoy the game and see if it's something that you're wanting to get into and pay money for. Starting with the age-old classic of categories, let's start with the character creation. Within Final Fantasy XIV, the character creation is honestly immense. You get 5 base races from just the standard game, and if you buy the DLC, you can get yourself up to 3 more different races. Each race is drastically different in their appearance, so at least you get a bit of a variety to pick between what you're interested in, and within each race, they are divided into 2 clans each. Choosing between the 2 clans can have some drastic changes or some minor changes to, color palettes and just general overall appearances, as well as backstory and lore if you're interested in the role-playing aspect of it. The only downside to the character creation is there's no sliders. You're selecting basically different presets, and there is a decent amount of presets, but typically you'll tend to find that most people have somewhat of a similar taste in presets, especially in Final Fantasy XIV, which a lot of people do end up looking like each other a little bit, unless you get extra creative. For the base races, you have the Here, Elezen, Lalafell, Mikote, and Rogadin. These races are what comes with the base game, as well as the trial version of the game. When you want to get the DLC, you can get an Alra, and if you go for further DLC, you get Viera and Hrothgar. And if you're unsure what race to pick, there's tons of YouTube videos out there deciphering and telling you what kind of person you are if you play that race. Keeping in mind most of those videos are jokes, but there is some truth to them, I imagine. The nice part about this game is the glamour. If you're looking to create the ultimate version and customizations for your character from a modern day hero that's in a fantasy universe, sure. If you want to create the ultimate medieval warrior in some decked out armor, absolutely. The glamour system of the game is what helps make your character look so diverse for the lack of preset options that are within the game. And to even further your glamour prowess, there's dyes in the game. So you can dye your gear as long as the gear is dyeable and let you, make yourself a pink knight or a white knight or, a bard that's edgy and dressed in all black. It's all very possible within this game. So with the glamour system being in place, as well as the character customization having, a relatively good amount of options, you can also kind of adjust the personality of your character with changing their pose, how they stand around, or even their battle stances a bit. This game is honestly a perfect environment for someone that wants to be into RP, or roleplay. Though, let us dig into the classes of the game, since it's still a little bit a part of the character customization and creation aspect. Within the Final Fantasy XIV universe, there is 19 classes, all broken down into 3 major categories: tank, healer, and DPS. since this video is not exactly an in-depth guide of the game, we're only just going to list off the classes within the game. Starting with tanks, you got the Paladin, Warrior, Dark Knight, Gunbreaker, healers who have the White Mage, Scholar, Astrologian, Sage, and then the DPS you have Monk, Dragoon, Ninja, Samurai, Reaper, Bard, Machinist, Dancer, Black Mage, Summoner, Red Mage. I don't think I really needed to take a breath, but I did. Keeping in mind the trifecta of the game from the tank, the healers, and the DPSs, it's good to note that playing a tank as well as a healer will give you faster Q pops because they have more responsibilities compared to that of a DPS. Although I always recommend just play the class that you want to play. Don't listen to what others have to say, especially for raid content, because you gotta enjoy the game for yourself. Tying the class section into the combat section, we can say that the game itself plays more so like a classic or an old school MMORPG. This can be a turnoff to a lot of people, especially since early levels within the game you have 1 or 2 skills and you're just pressing those buttons and spamming them. It's not exactly the most exhilarating. However, as you get to higher levels, well, it still has that kind of a little bit of a slower combat feel. I feel like it's a necessary thing, especially for the harder raids, the harder trials, and the harder dungeons, because you're going to be focusing on a lot of mechanics while trying to weave in your skills and dodging different attacks. And it's important to keep in mind that with the combat, the trifecta that the game offers is very important. If you're a DPS, don't pull mobs, you're going to die. If you're a healer, don't pull mobs, you're not going to die as fast, but you will die. Let the tanks pull the mobs. And if you guys are interested in an in-depth guide, there are tons of videos out there like Mr. Happy who release guides on what classes do and what they are like within each update. If you're wanting a video from me though, let me know down below because I'm not going to make the video unless I know that there's interest in it. But I digress. We're going to talk about the dungeons, the content, we're going to call it combat content. If you're someone that isn't interested in the story and are just wanting to play an MMORPG for its combat content, or even just extra content, there's a lot that you can do within the game. From the standard dungeon, to trials where you're fighting a boss, to raids, which can offer an 8-player experience to a 24-player experience, there's tons of different opportunities to experience combat in a different way at least. If you're looking to be a money-making person, you can actually do combat content which is called maps, and these maps allow you to delve into randomized experiences that allow you to have tons of fun gambling whether you're going to get kicked out of the dungeon or not. Just don't be like me and always pick the left door and get kicked out every single try on the first try. We also have content which is almost like a little natural minigame and a great way to level, which is known as deep dungeons. These deep dungeons allow you to basically climb or delve into floors that get progressively more difficult, and you get little chests and treasures and items that you can use to help yourself grow separately from your character in the normal world. Luckily for you, if you're interested in the more difficult content, there's what's known as Savage Raids, Ultimate Raids, and Extreme Trials. Stuff where the content means if you mess up once, you're probably going to wipe your entire team out. Good news though, if you're not interested in hardcore content or even the combat that much, there are ways around it where you can just make your life 10 times easier with, NPCs to help you run the dungeon instead of real players. This can remove a lot of stress for people who are more interested in the life content section of the game. When it comes to the life content of the game, there's so many different things that you can do, from gathering to crafting, and even gambling at a fun little casino that many players that played other Final Fantasies would know as the Golden Saucer. The world itself is even full of collectibles and little side quests that can offer things like emotes to help the role players expand their character's personality a bit. And even just like the real world, we're offered events within the game that can represent Christmas, Easter, Halloween, and they all give us little cool emotes or even costumes along the side that can help boost our, fun within the game. Even summertime, we get a fun event where we get to do jumping puzzles and explore this beautiful beach known, it's just so good. I could just rant on about this forever. We can tell that I'm a little bit biased to the life side content of the game. It's just so much fun. even recently, we were given our own island to decorate, to farm. We're literally playing Stardew Valley in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, how can you complain about that? It's so great. And you can even race chocobos. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of chocobo racing and raising them up to be the best chocobo that there is. Whew, okay. Now, even with the life content side, there is the ability to have housing. Housing is not instanced in this game, so there's only a limited amount of houses. And a lot of people are going to call it, housing extreme, because getting a house is very hard and it is random, lottery based. Like, it's kind of tough to deal with. Though, luckily, if you get one, you can have it for your FC, which is guilds in the game, or you can have it for yourself and share it with another person. So if you've found yourself, your wife playing the game, or, a brother or a sister, and you guys want to build a house together, if you do get one, you can share the customization and enjoy building the sweet lounge that you've always expected, or a cafe. Speaking of cafes, there's player-ran life content. You can literally view the party finder and you can see things that players have created. There's opportunities to go to nightclubs, to go to cafes, to go to swimming pools and bathhouses and all that jazz. Tying the life content into the social content, the game's social is honestly beautiful. The people in the game are very welcoming to newcomers and also are very helpful. Obviously, there's going to always have some kind of toxicity within a video game, but from all the communities I've ever experienced, I think I've had maybe one bad experience in my 10 years of playing this game. The community is honestly pretty crazy. You can play the Bard class, and Bards can also play their own music, so sometimes you'll come across player-made concerts who are all performing and making their own music as they stand around town and people shuffle to see them. I myself have played Bard and love music, and since I'm a music producer, I've played music in front of a bunch of people in the main city, Limsa, and even have been paid by random players just because they're tipping me. It's really cool. I gotta stop nerding out about the life content. Let's switch on to, probably the most important part of this game, the story. I don't even know where to start. Honestly, the origins of the game is insane enough as it is, with 1.0 when it was launched being an absolutely trash game. There was still, some, love to it, but it was definitely not up to standards of what games should have been at the time. When the game had a collapse, basically a man named Yoshi P took the reins and revived the game. Something that is almost impossible in the gaming industry, especially when you earn such a bad rep. But he used that bad rep to his advantage. With 1.0 ending in a basically fiery blaze, he restarted and created a Realm Reborn. That's where the game starts. Though I'm not going to delve into how that all went about, I highly recommend checking out NoClip's video, the Final Fantasy XIV documentary, called 1.0 or 1.0. Make sure to give them some love. Though, on our side, we're going to talk about what to expect and what really is the story in that sense. It kind of boils down to Final Fantasy XIV's main focus is the storytelling. So, a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but it's one of those things where you'll probably enjoy Final Fantasy XIV more if you're paying attention to the story. And I say people might disagree with this because a lot of people hate hearing that, oh, just get past a Realm Reborn, the game gets so good. I'm gonna be dead ass honest, the beginning of the game is such a slog. But I paid attention and the payout at the end of it was phenomenal. I can swear by that and on my mother's life. I actually maybe shouldn't do that. The good news though is that the beginning of the game, A Realm Reborn, is being reworked by the Yoshi P and his team. I'm not exactly sure what's going to be entailed in the Realm Reborn rework, but I imagine it's going to hopefully remove a lot of those really silly fetch quests that dragged out the story for far too long. If you're someone that's actually interested in paying attention to the story, I will tell you right now, you are honestly in for probably one of the best Final Fantasy journeys of your life. I've played enough single player games in my life to say, hey, Persona 5 is my #1 favorite game. Nier Automata is my #1 favorite storytelling game. Sure, this one has taken the cake. There's nothing that has been able to make me cry as much as this game has. My wife and I even always just end up bawling in each other's arms when the new DLC comes out. It's something that just makes us so attached to the characters. Even the story writing, like, to make a villain someone that you actually love is impressive as a story writer. It's something that you don't get to see in a lot of games where you feel bad for a certain group of people even though they're doing evil things. Though I shouldn't get too far into it because I don't want to give any spoilers for those that are actually going to start the game fresh and do the story themselves, because it is genuinely a great experience and I highly recommend it. Even getting past that boring slog at the first maybe 5 or 6 hours of the game. Man, I really need to learn to breathe more while I'm talking. But that's a magnificent segue into the monetization of the game. Yes, there is monetization in Final Fantasy XIV. Just like a lot of people when they hear monetization, especially in MMOs, they get nervous, but this game doesn't. You don't have to feel nervous about it. The monetization, past a subscription fee, they do have an online store which allows you to buy special costumes, special emotes, or if you missed an event, you can re-buy those emotes when that event is running around for around $5 US. You're even offered the opportunity to have level skips within the game, which I don't typically recommend, but if you're just like me and you're impatient and you love playing video games and you just want to be not having to level, then sure, go ahead, but I definitely recommend still do early content to at least learn the class. Past leveling skips, which only level you up to a certain point anyways, you can also get mounts, which, some people will be like, well, why is it not in the game? There's a ton of mounts in the game. There's a ton of emotes in the game. They do have a lot that you can earn in-game. It's just a nice little extra income for them in that sense, I imagine. So yeah, that's Final Fantasy XIV in a nutshell. That's what Final Fantasy XIV is. It's a game that honestly a lot of people are grown to, attached to. It's helped them get through dark times. It's helped them get through their light times. They're bored, you can hop on and chat with friends, make new friends, and the community, it's all so welcoming. It's one of my favorite games personally, and I'm glad I can cover it on the channel, especially when I have already 4,000 hours in the game on Steam, and who knows how much I have on the PlayStation. And Final Fantasy XIV owns like a special place in my heart because it's what helped me basically meet my wife. It's such a great experience that, it's an opportunity I never thought I would ever have, especially a long distance relationship. There's just so much that I can go on about, even the crossovers in the game, having a Monster Hunter World crossover, being able to fight Rathalos and have yourself a little cat follower, just like in the Monster Hunter, it's great. Having a Nier Automata situation where you get to deal with 2B and 9S, it's just so good. The only complaint I have the game is that I kind of fall asleep during the lower level dungeons just because it's so slow. But the game itself, just in general, overlooks that entirely, and I highly recommend at least try the trial. So let us be about it, hero. And when it comes to games, and just like my videos, one person's enjoyment is another person's dislike. Be sure to let me know if you liked the video, give it a nice thumbs up, feel free to drop a comment down below and perhaps any games you wish to see on the channel within the future. Otherwise, if you disliked it, feel free to hit that thumbs down, and with that being said, this was What is Final Fantasy XIV? My name is Jian, and a smile better suits a hero. Cheers.
Do you know Rahi? I will play Rahi. Music start!